So thank you everyone for joining us today. I want to introduce you to Michael Rosenblum, who is a fabulous children's book author in Chicago. And he just recently published his book, The Caterpillar and the Butterfly. And so Michael, if you just want to start off by giving us kind of a brief synopsis of why you wrote the book.
Well, I wrote the book because I just had a message to deliver to children, although it's really kind of turned into more of a ageless audience, because the idea is that when we take our fear and turn it inside out, it's faith. And I think the message really applies to all of us, no matter what our age is. And whilst it's illustrated for children, I'm finding that adults love it just as much. I suppose that's why as an adult, I love to still watch The Wizard of Oz or Mary Poppins. So I don't know if you ever lose the child in yourself. So, but basically it was the idea that the message came into my head, and my background of being in the media for 23 years, which is not what I do now, but, just sort of returned to my roots of creative writing. And like I said, wanted to get the message out.
Awesome, thank you. So how did you come up with the concept of fear and faith, and why did you want that originally to be sent to children and to adults too?
I think how I came up with it is I've always been a lover of animals, insects, creatures in general. Since I was a little kid, my mom would tell me how I would lay on the sidewalk in my diapers and watch the ants. And, I always loved the garden. I loved the backyard. I just loved animals and open fields and territories. And the first book I wrote, called Happily Ever Always, which is the idea that we're always entitled to live happily ever, wasn't necessarily the first book I wanted to write. It was this book, but unfortunately life works in a way that we don't always get to pick what happens first or second. And so this evolved. And so I had this concept, and it started a little differently, but it just took time. And I always say that my thoughts and ideas perhaps aren't my ownership. They're kind of the universe. They come from a higher level. And I'm speaking in a non-denominational way. So I just believe that there's a higher force or power. And I just felt like maybe I'm the catalyst to convey the message and articulate it. And so that's how the formation came. And I related the concept of fear is faith inside out, because it's something that struck me since I was young. And in testing it with my own life and in different areas and facets, I just began to believe it's such a true and wise phrase that if you think about your fear and you turn it inside out, it's faith. The opposite of faith is fear, and the opposite of fear is faith. And it makes sense. And so then it was the idea of how can I relate it to the creatures, of the earth? And I thought the metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly. And then I just thought, this is so perfect. Like I got too deep in my own idea. I thought the butterfly is perfect. And the butterfly's name is faith. And if you think about faith, my God, faith is like, angels, and angels have wings, and butterflies have wings. And maybe that was the whole intent. And maybe angels really are, maybe angels are butterflies and butterflies are angels. And so that's how the whole evolution came to be. And I just thought it was like, it just made complete sense to me. And so then it was just putting it into a story and putting the message out there. And I think what's really important for people to know is I didn't write this book to make money. I wrote the book in order to be able to raise money for children's charities. 50% of my author royalties are going to a whole bunch of different children's charities. We haven't picked them all yet because royalties won't come to us until 9 months, according to my attorney, with regards to the contract of my publisher, and at which point we'll go ahead and do that. And of course, the other 50% is going towards costs to put out programming and do different things to pay those people. So really, it's the idea of getting the message out to the world. And the story ends happily ever always, not happily ever after, because again, you can't after live happily ever, but you always can live happily ever. So if you think about it, I'm trying to rewrite pop culture. Instead of saying happily ever after, we should say happily ever always, because always is endless and after is just an end. It's finite, and endless is infinite. Always is infinite. Okay, now I'm talking too much, Chase.
No,
Move on.
Well, thank you so much for describing that for us. I think this would be a great time to start reading. Michael, if you want to start off with the first page, and then we can switch back and forth between Lindsay and Michael.
Okay, so Lindsay, do you want to read like one character and I'll read the other and narrate? So like I'll narrate the book and maybe you want to take the lines for Faith, the butterfly?
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to be Faith, the butterfly.
You are Faith with the name like Lindsay. It's perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, great. So we have Erin here who's helping me, and she's going to pull up the book, I think.
Excellent.
If I just need to be able to screen share, if the host could allow me to screen share.
Okay, 1 second, let me see. Amy, if you'd be able to allow us to screen share, that would be great.
All you tech geniuses.
Okay, you should be able to now. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay, show me. Do I start dedication or
Start
first?
with the book.
Okay. In a garden lived a little caterpillar. Afraid of so many things, the other critters named it Fear. One day, Fear saw the most magical butterfly and watched it from behind the grass. The butterfly landed nearby on a flower.
Hello, would you like to play?
Fear coiled into a ball.
Don't be afraid. My name is Faith. I am a friend.
But Fear did not answer.
What's your name, little caterpillar? Please tell me what's wrong.
My name is Fear, and I feel sad,
Why?
asked Faith. Because I'm afraid of many things, Fear explained.
What are you afraid of?
Other critters, lightning storms, being bullied, making friends, trying new things.
I understand how you feel. I won't let anything happen to you. Come play with me.
With the help of Faith, Fear tried new things and made new friends. Each day, Fear became a little braver. One day, Fear said to Faith, "You make it seem so easy. I wish I felt as free from worry as you do. I wish I could fly high just like you." Faith smiled and said,
I was once just like you. One day you will be just like me.
"But how will that happen?" Fear asked. Faith flew down and sat beside Fear.
You need to try new things, even when you are afraid. You need to be kind, even when you are afraid. Most of all, You need to believe in yourself, even when you're afraid. When you can do these things, you will have the power to fly.
That night, Fear thought about what Faith said. Fear thought about the past months, the new friends made, and all the new experiences. The future no longer seemed as scary. Fear decided to start believing in Faith. Suddenly sleepy, Fear took a long, cozy nap and dreamed of what could be. In the new day, Fear found the magic of faith and started to fly. Happily, ever, always. Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to open it up to any questions that anyone has. Maybe Amy or Lindsay want to start?
Tell us about the reactions you've been getting to the book, especially from adults, because you talked about it and it's so clear that the message is really for any human, no matter what age they are.
Well, we're getting a lot of positive reactions, and it's just really incredible because the book is published by Austin Macaulay out of the UK, their London office, though they do have offices in New York and other parts of the world. But they're seeing a lot of movement with the book in the UK, which is interesting. And we're seeing equally as many positive reviews from people that are buying it through the different distribution outlets that it's available. There's like a total of 49,000 distribution outlets worldwide, but it's just interesting. I mean, if you start Googling, you can see reviews popping up in different countries, different places, different parents, adults writing. One thing that struck me, there was a reader in the UK, and I thought her review was lovely. In fact, she said, bravo to the author for realizing that little people are actually very thoughtful too. So, that was wonderful, but a lot of positive reactions. Lindsay, it's interesting because I had one adult that contacted us and said, I was abused. I was somebody broke into my house and raped me and brutally abused me. And I have to tell you, your book, I just had tears when I read it because I had to go through several years of therapy to come to be who I am, and that whole messaging of fear and faith. So I thought that was really positive. So it's very interesting how it's helping people, all different backgrounds. We've gotten really great reviews. I had somebody from Mayo Clinic contact me and said that they have it in their pediatrics ward, and it seems to be very positive with little people there. I thought that was really interesting. I had an early learning center contact me from South Florida. They want me to do a reading, and said that just the comments that are coming in from parents about the book is tremendous. So it's just exciting in that way. Greta Moynihan from The View on ABC interviewed me because her son became a quick fan. The children seem to be captivated by the illustrations, and adults the messages, because naturally adults are reading to the children. So that was a bit loquacious, but I think you understand.
Yeah, and I love hearing all that. And as we were reading the book, I was thinking about adults, in particular adults over the lifespan. And I do a lot of work in the mental health area. So I think about things like mental health conditions and anxiety, and how life is long. And yet, we all struggle at different moments during life. And I could see that message to adults or to kids that struggle with anxiety, and pushing through it and pushing through that fear, and really internalizing the notion that it gets better. You'll have a down again, but you'll definitely have an up again. So I really appreciated that part.
Yes, I agree with what you said about the ups and downs. So, you know, that's the whole idea of happily ever always. If you think about it, I feel like everyone's put here to always live happily ever, but we go through trials and tribulations. I was chatting with some children about the idea of what does that mean, and breaking those big words down for children is the idea that, think about a tree, like when you're young and you plant a seed in the ground and slowly the tree begins to grow, or even vegetables in the garden, you know, you put the seeds in and slowly, you know, you start to see a tomato plant rise from the ground. And that little tree or that plant is so fragile. It has to deal with all kinds of elements, rains and storms and lightning and thunder and, you know, other creatures that might attack it. And it's the same with us people in life. We're weathered by the trials and tribulations that we go through, the unexpected changes in our daily routines because of sickness or the uneasiness of somebody, you know, who changes our world, you know, car accidents or, you know, anything that can happen to us. But the same thing happens in nature. But when we hold our faith and just believe with all our might that we'll get through it, it happens. As I was explaining to kids, how do I know it's going to happen? As one little girl had asked me, I said, it's real simple. Think about the sun. On a rainy day, the sun is there. It's just hiding behind the clouds. It's playing peekaboo. But did you know the sun's been around for 7 billion years? And to a little child, what's a billion years? I'm 57 years old. I don't even know what a billion years is. I just know the number, but I can't imagine the magnitude. I mean, if, you know, you think about the average lifespan, but now we're getting a little detailed. But what I'm saying is the sun is always there. The sun is always present. And if we relate sort of faith and fear to nature and think about it in this way, after every winter, there's spring, and it has been that way since the beginning of time. So the bare branches and the icicles that, you know, sort of enfold themselves on trees eventually go away and pave for new leaves to come onto that old oak tree or that old maple tree or that tree in general that's maybe only a year old. Guaranteed. So that guarantees us that if we stock our thoughts into faith and not fear, it's all going to come to be in a great way. And it's just holding that belief. But we absolutely have validation in nature. Quirky, I'm a quirky person. Whimsical.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm working on my third children's book, which I think is going to be really exciting for a lot of people. It deals with the fact that, you know, all the differences in the world are actually quite wonderful. And the differences among people are really quite fascinating. And that's all I can say about the book right now. But that's what the book is going to be about, the fact that we should appreciate one another as people, no matter what our differences are.
We need that right now. We need it always, but especially right now.
Yes, yes, we do.
Michael, I have a question for you. You know I just read that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I just had a question, like when you were starting to write the book, did you envision this to be something that would be so positive for people that maybe have struggles with mental health? I know for me, reading the book, I really connected to it, thinking back to when I was a child and being so anxious about going to school. And just how it's relevant then, but it's relevant now as an adult. And I'm just wondering, did you have, when you were writing the book, did you envision it to be so helpful for people who may have anxiety?
Honestly, I didn't. But I think I wrote the book based on my own life of being a fearful child and then growing up into being a successful businessman. And I wanted to put in more relevant things that kids deal with today, like bullying. I mean, I understand what bullying is about when I was a young child and being different. But also making friends is a hard thing. You know, I sometimes have, you know, when I'm walking in the city and I'll walk by a school, and I'll see the kids out for a playground and I'll see a few kids that are by themselves and the other kids playing. You know, sometimes kids are very difficult, or they're anxious, or whatever reason they have, maybe they're not connecting. And so I'm very sympathetic towards that. You know, I'm the quirky person that believes, isn't it fun to pay for the person behind you at Starbucks? You know, buy them a coffee, or if you're on the toll road, of course, everything is now these iPasses, but in the old days, you know, throw an extra coin in for the person behind to go through. Like, if we just take the time to do something nice for someone else, without expectation, it does come back tenfold. But can you imagine how it just makes that person's day? When I walk the streets and sometimes see homeless people or people begging for money, you know, I don't stop and give everyone money, but sometimes I look at somebody in the eyes and I just see that they're so lost. You know, I feel like our eyes are the windows to our soul. And when I give something to them, just to see how they smile, just to have touched their life. And then I wonder as I walk away, what will happen in their day with that smile that just came upon their face?
Right.
Like, how will they touch somebody else? Where will they go? If they live under, you know, one of the viaducts or wherever, maybe they'll go back and they'll somehow share whatever they bought with someone else. Like, we're only as strong as our weakest link. If we can just join hands, you know, in harmony, instead of, in opposition. And so, to get back to your question about anxiety, I think everyone has anxiety. Some people have it more than others. Mm-hmm. But I think that, with regards to writing the book, I just, was kind of going off of myself, but just believing that it will find its way. I have great faith that this book will find its way. And as I said, I just want it to be huge in the way to help people message. And it's just asking one person to tell the other person. It's so organic. Everyone at DBC who is helping with the social media, it's marvelous. And the amount of people that are starting to follow everything that you brilliant people are doing is incredible. But it's just the idea of, if one person just tells another person, and every time that happens, people are just enamored with the book because of the messaging. And that's it. We just need to get the message out there. We need people to just have more faith. And I do believe that if people have more faith, that they could be kinder towards their neighbors and strangers. When we have faith, that means we're happy. We have belief. And when we're happy, we're kinder to people. It's when people are angry and troubled and mean, that they work in a very negative way.
Right. And I love that, I know we have one little one on here, but I love that there's a lot of adults on this call, because I think, you see a children's book and you think, oh, it's for my kids, my niece, my nephew. But really, I mean, at least for me, I've really loved reading it and getting to know you, and the story of fear really being faith turned inside out. I think it's fabulous for everyone to hear.
And doesn't it make sense, everyone who's joining us today, if you think about it, don't you think it really makes sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I see some nods. Yes, I think most people are on mute here.
Yeah, but I do. I think it just makes complete sense.
Absolutely. Well, does anyone else have any questions?
Hi, I have a quick question. So you said before that you weren't always a writer, that you had done other things. How did you get into writing, and how did you start writing children's books?
Well, I actually was always a writer as a child. I used to love to do creative writing. And then my background education, I went to University of Missouri, which is known for the oldest journalism school, but ended up on the business side of media and enjoyed a 23-year career and developed magazines and sold them. And then subsequently ended up retiring in 2000, which I was a little too young when I sold the books out. And so got into real estate, being very visual, I don't know, it just kind of fell into it. And one friend asked me if I would help them, and then another friend. And so then it ended up, becoming one of the top brokers in the Chicago market. But felt like, something's lost in my business successes. We can generate and make great money, but that's not the end all be all, and just felt like I needed to do something more than satisfy people buying or selling property, and just wanted to give back. And I didn't have children I didn't have children when I was younger, and now at 57, I won't have children. So, and children are very important to me because I feel like that's the future of tomorrow. And so I thought, how can I help besides volunteering in a school or whatnot? What can I do to sort of have a little legacy, since I won't have a little person that will sort of be my legacy? So I thought, why don't I take my creative mind and my creativity and put it into children's books? And again, it's a hard field, but, just kind of pounded the pavement and kept pushing to find somebody who would find the story interesting and want to publish it. And a lot more rejection letters came in before an acceptance, came in. So, but it was fine. I just believed in it. And again, following my own philosophy about faith and fear, and just, not giving up, saying it will happen. And it did happen. And here we are.
Thank you. That's very inspiring.
Anybody have any other questions? I certainly appreciate everyone breaking their day. Don't you, Lindsay? Coming to... Yes, totally.
Absolutely.
And appreciate you, because I know you're so busy. There's so much going on right now in the state.
This is the exact type of message I need with me when I drive to Springfield tomorrow morning to pass bills. So this is really tremendous. And the other thing it makes me think about, Michael, in terms of its timeliness, and that is, we've all lived through this public health and economic crisis for more than a year. And when I was talking to social workers that live in the area and talking about the importance of access to mental health and the importance of access to telehealth, which we've heard a lot more about during this year, they shared with me that, it makes so much sense, people are going to have anxiety now related to reopening, related to re-entering into our old lives. And that, I think that's so right on. Like, this is a really big change that we've all been through, and now we're going to do another change. And a lot of people are going to struggle with different kinds of anxiety, including social anxiety, including anxiety about public health and if things are going to change. So just another reason why the timeliness of your book and the message getting out there is really on point for what the world needs right now.
You're so kind. It's interesting you said that, because there's a social worker that I know who lives in my building who bought a ton of copies of this book and passes it out to her patience, she said, "This is just so brilliant. You have no idea how valuable your message really is." She said, "I really don't think you know because you're not in the medical field." But she said, "This is really quite a strong message." And I think it's just great. Like I said, I just put it out there. I'm just the vessel or the catalyst that put it out there. It's not about me. It's really about all of us in the world. Like I said, I just am that whimsical person that if people would stop fighting and start loving, you know, it would be a much more harmonious place that we could live. There's just so much chaos, not just with COVID, but you being in politics know that. We're not going to get onto that subject, but I absolutely am volunteering my time to read the book to anyone in any learning center or any children's organization that wants me to do it, free of charge. I'm not charging for my time. I've had a number of organizations ask me to read it. A few said, "What is your fee?" I said, "Oh, I could never charge. You know, I just wouldn't charge for my time." If people like the book, then they'll buy the book, and you know, then royalties help for raising money for the charities. But other than that, yeah, that's it. But you know, it's interesting, Lindsay, that you say that going down to Springfield, you know, I mean, not that you don't already have a full agenda, but anybody you can turn on the book to, you know, would be exciting and thrilling. I mean, I have to tell you, I've just, you know, I've dropped it off to a bunch of principals at different elementary school, public schools in my area, and tried to contact them. And unfortunately you fall on deaf ears. You know, I realize that people are busy, but it's like, I'm giving you this free book that I've dropped off, and I'm telling you that I'll be happy to read it to any of your students. Cause as you said, with schools reopening, but you know, I'm sure it's just sitting on their desk. So, you know, it's kind of like anybody that you know is unfortunately how you get in a little bit quicker. But yeah, if there's anybody in Springfield that you think should be aware of the book that maybe can help us, you know, build on this, I would be forever grateful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Happy to make those
I would love to do it for the schools, right? I mean, just do a Zoom reading. You know, if you don't want me in person, let me just, you know, get your kindergarten classes. I'll be happy to read it to them. Right? I mean, if it just helps one child out of 20, then it's helped a lot, because that child's going to carry the message, and that child's going to grow up liking that message and sharing it with, you know, peers. And that's just, you know, I'm not Christian, but, you know, I know that in the Bible, it talks about the faith, you know, of a mustard seed, tiny, tiny, tiny little seed. That's all you need, that much faith, right? So, yeah. Just a tiny bit.
Does anyone else have any more questions before we end the call? Well, Michael, thank you so much for hopping on and reading your book. You know, it's always great to see you and hear from you. And Amy and Lindsay, thank you for taking time out of your day to host and co-host this event. And of course, thank you to everyone who came today. So I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Yes.